Did you think the marathon was over? Well, yes, it is, but a new movie was released this year, and I think it wouldn't be fair if I didn't go over it, as it literally premiered earlier this week. Well, on TV anyway. So, here we are, everyone. Welcome to the Pokemon Movie Marathon as we go over Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel. Gonna be honest here, this one has a lot of issues, but it's a lot better than the last one. So, let's go into the basic plot. The basic plot follows Volcanion in his pursuit to try and save to the titular mechanical Marvel Magarina. But after his first rescue attempt fails utterly, with itself ending up getting frozen despite being a fire type, I guess that might be the water type in it, it ends up running into Ash and friends, or in this case crashing into them, with the band that the bad guy's trying to use to trap it wrapped around his leg, and the other band being wrapped around Ash's waist. The bands are sort of magnetically attracted to one another and forces Ash and Volcanion to be stuck together. Well, in Ash's case, being dragged along with wherever Volcanion ends up. Having no choice, Ash is forced to go along with Volcanion as it continues to pursue to try and save Magarina. All the while, the main villain, Cabinet Minister Alva, manipulates the young Prince Riley to snatch up Magarina and use it to unleash an ancient doomsday weapon that was supposed to protect their kingdom, but of course led into war, because that's what ancient doomsday weapons do all the time. So the main crux of this plot is Volcanion and Ash's growing relationship. Volcanion has a very strong dislike, if not outright hatred, for humans, and him and Ash being literally strapped together and leading to hijinks, of course leads to Volcanion eventually warming up to humanity. Most of all, Ash. One thing I have to mention is the fact that Serena and us actually get to do something in this movie, outside of just sitting around the sidelines like the last two movies. Clay makes to show off his love for mechanics and fanboying over the stuff created by Magarina's creator, as well as other mechanical marvels. He's even the one that figures out how to separate Ash and Volcanion. And Serena pretty much leads the group into battle towards the finale, which is really surprising when you actually see it. Like, she's the one who leads the charge, not Ash. It's kind of amazing. Speaking of the finale, it was a lot better than the last two finales. Thankfully, it wasn't about some big old disaster, and the group was actually fighting against a group of enemies. Their enemies, of course, using a group of Mega Evolved Pokemon because they can hack the system like that. Speaking of the main villain, he's pretty standard, honestly. Outside of having a way to Mega Evolve multiple Pokemon at once, as well as having a shiny Gengar, he just feels like any other movie that's shown up in these movies. I mean, any other villain shown up in these movies. You know, he reminds me the most of Iron Mask Marauder from the fourth movie. A villain with no real motivation other than power for power's sake. And from his design, the only thing he's really missing to prove himself as evil is this nightly whiplash mustache. Basically, he's anime Jafar. You know, with that thought, this whole movie reminds me of the fourth movie. A villain with no real motivation or goals outside of just being evil, with at least one really cool gimmick. In the fourth movie's case, the Dark Balls, and in this movie's case, the whole forced Mega Evolution thing. A Pokemon MacGuffin that can unleash other hell, but acts like a cutesy little thing, and it can't really speak or use telepathy, which it really makes no sense how Volcanion can use telepathy, but that's a whole other issue. And a somewhat interesting finale where that cutesy Pokemon almost dies before ultimately coming back towards the end of the movie. You know what? Team Rocket even serves the same role. They somewhat start working for the main villain temporarily before being betrayed, and one of them ends up being kidnapped for the villain's own purposes. In the fourth movie, it was Jesse for really no real reason. It was just held hostage for some reason. But in this movie, it's Meowth being taken hostage because he can understand Magarina. It's a lot better than the fourth movie, but I just can't help that observation now that I've been aware of it. Honestly speaking, I wouldn't mind them reusing plots from old movies, especially if they're just going to do the bad ones, and they just make improvements here or there. That would actually be a pretty good movie, especially considering the fact that most of the kids who are watching these movies have probably never seen the original movies. If they have seen them, they have really awesome parents. Overall, I have to say this is the best of the 6th-gen movies, which really isn't that hard of a contest when you consider the fact that the first of them is okay at best, and the second one of them is pretty much one of the worst Pokemon movies that they've ever done. Just taking away some points for having a generic villain, a pretty standard story, but getting major points for having a really cool finale, as well as not having a great big disaster at the end. And at least Volcanion was a somewhat interesting character, and somewhat funny towards the very end of the movie. So then that's going to be the end of the marathon 100% this time. I may or may not do the other Pokemon movies when they come out, albeit that'll just be one a year at that point. But I do have plans for another movie marathon next year, if you're interested in that sort of thing. Here's a hint: it involves some popular comic books and has sort of revolutionized film as of late. But with all that said, I really hate to pander to you, but apparently YouTube's changed its rules yet again. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. And I hope you all have a good day. And hopefully these movies get a lot better, because this is a pretty good step forward. So, till next time.